Hello. So, you're a proud owner of a new Pi mini cluster. So this is the bag you've received with your Pis. Let's look what's inside and see how you're going to use them. So, first off, we have the Pi mini cluster itself, right? This is a gigabit switch, 5-port, with 4 Pis. Now you'll notice some of the Pis have blue USB, and some of the Pis have do not have the blue USB. So the Pis with the blue USB, those are Raspberry Pi 4s. Okay, those are the ones that Pi-Man does not yet support for booting. You'll notice that the only thing these Pis plug into are the switch, right? That's because this switch is a power over Ethernet switch. So the Ethernet port provides both the network connectivity and the power. All right, so if you want to power off your Pi, you just remove the switch, or you remove the cable, and that will power off the Pi. You plug it back in, and it will power back on. The other thing you'll notice is there's this little blue tab at the top. That's simply to prevent the Pis from falling out. So if you need to remove the Pi, you just pop this the blue pin off, and then you can slide the Pi out. Sometimes you might find it a little bit difficult to get the Pis out, but if you just use your finger, push in the back a little bit, then you should be able to pull the Pi out. So this one is a little bit tight here, so I need to push a little bit more. And here we can see we have the Pi. Now, the Pi also has a SD card, a micro SD card. Right? This is its storage, its hard drive. So you probably don't need to access that, but if you ever do, if you need to reset the drive, or if you want to look at what's on the drive, in your little bag, there is a micro USB, or I'm sorry, micro SD card adapter, USB adapter, right? That you can plug into your machine, and then you can format it or look at the contents of this card. Okay, so if your machine does not have micro SD card reader, you can use this thing, and this you can find in your bag. Okay, let me just put this back together again. Okay, again, it just slides in. It's a little bit tight, so it might take a little bit of pressure to slide in, and then you can just put the tab back on top. Okay. Now, in the bag, you will find the power supply for the switch, and again, that's going to power the Pis and everything. You'll find this cable right here. This is the HDMI adapter. On the Pis, you'll see on the Raspberry Pis 3B pluses, these are the ones without the blue on the USB connectors. This has a normal HDMI connector. You can plug this right into your monitor, into your TV, whatever you want, and you can see video out. However, on the Raspberry Pi 4s, you see you have 2 of these micro HDMI connectors. Now these aren't that common, so I've included in the bag micro USB to, micro HDMI to HDMI connector. So you can plug that in here. I found that sometimes it gotta kind of wiggle it in a little bit, and then you'll have the normal HDMI connector on this. Okay, so that's what this cable's for. And then the other 2 things in the box, or in your bag, are another network cable and a USB Ethernet cable. It's because I know that many of you probably are using your laptop and you don't have an Ethernet connector, or if you do have an Ethernet connector, maybe it's plugged into the network. So this is to provide you with another network connector for your machine so that you can access this switch. So what you're going to do, of course, you'll plug the network cable I gave you into the adapter, and then you'll plug the adapter into your switch. Okay, and this will get you all wired up hardware-wise. Now, the question is, how are you going to then use this from the software side? So we start with VirtualBox. We go into our VM configuration and look at the USB. You'll notice I set up the extended USB so that I could get USB 3 support. And we select the USB network card. And this will automatically assign this USB network card to our virtual machine. So now if we start up the virtual machine, we can check the devices and see that we have the USB network card assigned to us. That's what that little checkbox means. Now note, you don't actually have to configure it to automatically assign to this virtual machine. You can actually just go up and check that checkbox whenever you want, and that will pull it away from your host and assign it to VirtualBox. So now I right-clicked on the little network icon, and if you go into configurations, you can see that this second wired Ethernet connection is our USB. We're going to go into IPv4 and configure it manually because there's no DHCP server, right? I'm using the address 172.16.1.128. I need to get the net mask to be 255.255.255.0. Now this is for group 1, so that's why I'm using the 1 here. Other groups, use your group number. And this is where you're running your Pi-man on. We don't use IPv6, so you can just ignore it. That will prevent extra IPv6 noise from coming up if you look at Wireshark. So now when we save it, we can use the IP address command to look at the configured addresses, and we see we have our network configured here. If we turn it off, so we unclick that button, we're giving it the USB back to the host, and we'll see it disappear. And of course, if we click it again, we'll reclaim it for our virtual machine, and it'll come back. So there we see, well, we'll see in just a second. We'll see the Ethernet's coming back, and there's our address, the 172.16.1.128. So once you set that up in your virtual machine, you're good to go. You can start up Pi-man, and you can actually get things running. Okay. The last note I would like to make about using these Pis, or using this microcluster. If you leave it plugged in for a while, you'll notice it can get warm. It has fans, it has cooling, but it's kind of crammed all together pretty tightly. So it can get a bit warm. If you're not using the microcluster, I suggest turning it off. If you are using it, I suggest only powering on the Pis that you actually are using. So for example, if you're just working with the Raspberry Pi 4, maybe you disconnect the other ones. That will actually cut down on some of the heat that is generated. And it also makes it easier because you won't see activity from the other Pis. Eventually though, you will want to test with them all on, just to make sure that everything is running properly. But if you do leave them all plugged in for an extended period of time, it will get pretty hot. So, all right. So, good luck on this first phase of the assignment. Hope you enjoy the Pis and the experience you're going to get. All right, take care. Hi, I'm back. Just two more things I realized I should have mentioned. If you look at the back of your switch, there's a little switch here that's a switch on the switch for VLAN, right? You want that switch to go to default. It needs to be on default. Do not put it on VLAN. We'll actually talk a little bit about what that switch does when we cover VLANs. It actually is not a true VLAN, but it's not going to behave the way we want it to if it's switched to VLAN, so make sure that it's switched to default. Also, do not install your Pis. Okay, your Pis are going to be, we're going to boot them over the network and we're going to install them over the network. If you do install your Pi SD cards by hand, you're going to need to erase them because you won't know if your network installs work. Okay? Alright, so anyway, enjoy. Please feel free to play around with the Pis. Try to get PiMan running with it. Whatever you want to do. Okay?